Kaido's devil fruit revealed. Yo, what's going on guys? Saffron here. So last time I discussed the famous theory that Kaido ate a dragon devil fruit, and I came to the conclusion that he didn't actually do so. Feel free to check it out if you haven't already. I'll link it in the description. So with that in mind, this video is basically the second part of my Kaido series, where I will be discussing the theory that Kaido is an Oni. In case you don't know what an Oni is basically the Japanese equivalent to a demon, troll or ogre. I'm pretty sure you've seen them before because they're a big part of Japanese culture, and so they pop up in anime a lot, like in DBZ. For those skeptical of this theory, trust me, the evidence that I and others found before me is very convincing. You will probably enjoy this video, so bear with me until the end of the video. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. To start off, we have to look at a Japanese folklore called Momotaro, which has a lot of parallels to the current One Piece story, especially the whole deal with Momonosuke wanting to liberate Wano from Kaido. But I'm pretty sure that you'll draw the connections as I summarize the story. Big props to RogersBase because he noticed the similarity between the story of Momotaro and Momonosuke first, back in 2015, before we even knew that much about Kaido. A lot of what he said is coming true, especially with what happened in Zeal. Well done. So the story begins with an old woman one day finding a big peach flown across the river. She took in the big peach to show her husband. However, just before they were gonna cut it open, a young boy suddenly hatched out of it. So basically they gave the boy the name Momotaro because he came out of a peach and they raised him. Momo means peach in Japanese, so keep that in mind for later. Also, this links into a big theory which I was skeptical of before, but I'll go more into that at the end of the video. Now, when this boy grew up, he heard stories of these demons called Onis who were harassing and terrorizing the people living in Japan. So he begged his parents to let him go fight off these monsters and save the people. After they finally decided to let him go, Momotaro went on a journey to Oni Island to fight off the Onis. Oni Island is the location where the Onis lived. And by the way, this is how Oni Island looks like in most versions of the story. Again, keep this in mind for later. It's going to play a huge part in supporting the theory that Kaido is an Oni, or at least was inspired by them. During Momotaro's journey to Oni Island, he met 3 animals who joined him on his quest. A monkey, a dog and a pheasant bird. After sailing the seas on a boat in order to reach the island, at last they were on the island. Momotaro and his friends then penetrated their fortress and defeated the Onis, making them promise to never again trouble the people of Japan. And as Momotaro and his friends were leaving Oni Island, they took the Onis' treasure as well. By the way, this is how the Onis looked like. Take a note of their appearance and particularly the weapon they're wielding, i.e. the iron club. So yeah, that's basically how the story goes. Now I'm sure that many of you have probably already found the parallels between the story of Momotaro and the story of One Piece. Specifically the parallel between Momotaro himself and Momonosuke. If not, let me quickly break it down for you. So the first obvious connection is that both Momotaro and Momonosuke have peach in their name. Plus, Momonosuke's kimono contains peaches. Hell, even their hair looks similar. And let's not forget that in Dressrosa, when Jorah used her dying art technique on Momonosuke, his head became shaped like a peach. So Oda obviously took inspiration for Momonosuke's character from the character of Momotaro. Secondly, the monkey, the dog and the pheasant bird that Momotaro met could be parallel to some characters in One Piece who we know will be in the Wano Arc. I'm not talking about the 3 original admirals, by the way. Anyway, Luffy is obviously the monkey. I mean, his surname is Monkey. Plus, Oda said in an SBS that if Luffy was an animal, he would be a monkey. The dog could be Foxfire Kinemon, but it's more likely to be Inuarashi, the dog mink, who we know will be in Wano as part of the anti-Kaido alliance. And the pheasant bird, this one's a bit tricky. It could be Kanjuro since at one point, the dude drew a bird and fucking tried to ride it, but I doubt it. That side, it's more probable that it's Marco instead, because in Japanese mythology, the phoenix is actually a pheasant bird, and we know that Marco is a phoenix and that he may be in the Wano Arc. So Luffy's the monkey, Inuarashi is probably the dog, and Marco is probably the pheasant bird. Keep in mind that this doesn't necessarily mean that these 3 will fight Kaido alone together. I think it's more likely that these 3 represent their own allegiances. Luffy as the monkey could represent the Straw Hats, the Heart Pirates and potentially the other supernovas. Inuarashi as the dog could represent the Samurai Mink Alliance, and Marco as the pheasant bird could represent the Whitebeard Pirates. Anyway, the next obvious parallel is that they sailed the seas on a boat in order to reach Oni Island, and obviously in One Piece they will use a ship to go to Wano. But the next parallel is what seals the deal for me. It's something that I found myself when I was researching Onis, but it turns out that a few people found this too. If you remember, from right after the Dressrosa arc, Kaido's crew members were looking for Kaido, and we saw them looking up at the top of a massive fortress. Well, look at the fortress. Doesn't the design of the fortress look similar? Yes, Kaido's fortress is blatantly based on the design of Oni Island. I think that was one of the biggest early hints that he's an Oni, or at least is based on one. The next parallel is that I'm pretty sure that at the end of Wano, unless things go wrong, the Straw Hats will steal Kaido's treasure, just like how Momotaro and his friends stole the treasure of the Onis as they were leaving. I mean, the Straw Hats have done this before, like back in Skypiea. Another obvious parallel is the fact that Kaido literally looks like an Oni. I mean, he has the horns, he has the wild hair, he's invincible, and he's terrorizing Wano, which clearly parallels the traits of the Onis and what they were doing in Japan. But what really solidifies this is that, as we recently found out, Kaido wields an iron club, which is the trademark weapon of the Onis. Hell, a famous Japanese expression is quote-unquote Oni with an iron club, which basically is used to describe someone who is invincible. This clearly parallels how Kaido is invincible, and even his crew members have horns. Whether some of them are accessories or not, I don't know, but it's another parallel. His crew could be representing the Oni army or something like that. Also, a tradition that the Japanese have is the using of monkey statues to ward off Onis. Yes, you heard that, monkey statues. So what this could mean is that maybe Luffy will deal the finishing blow on Kaido or something like that, but this is just speculation. Lastly, according to legends, whenever the Onis appeared, they would bring forth disasters and unpleasantries. I don't know if I'm the first person to notice this, but could this be a parallel to the two subgroups within the Beast Pirates, i.e. the disasters and the pleasures? So moving on, what I generally think is that Kaido wasn't born a human. Or at least if he was, he became the result of an experiment or something. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't know for sure what he was born as. He could have been born as a dragon, the result of Vegapunk's experiments, or he could be a hybrid of different races, or he could even be a Sea King. I don't have a definite answer right now, but regardless of what he was born as, I think that Kaido ate a devil fruit related to Onis. It could be the Oni model of the Hito no Mi, or it could just simply be an Oni devil fruit. Alternatively, another theory that I have is that Kaido could be part of an Oni race. Because if you look back in One Piece, there have been characters like Oz and Oz Jr. who look very similar to the Japanese Onis and Kaido, which I've talked about previously on my channel. So it could be that Kaido was born as a theoretical Oni race. He could even be an Oni hybrid, since he doesn't share the same skin color as Oz. But that brings in the question of what devil fruit he ate if he was born as an Oni. Well, I think he did eat ADF. I know that some of you will disagree, but I might discuss this in a future video. For now, just bear with me. Anyway, this brings me on to my next point. So in part 1, I said that I will be trying to explain how Kaido reached the Sky Island where Urouge was resting without using the Dragon Devil Fruit theory. So I have like 2 answers or possibilities. Firstly, he could have literally grabbed onto a balloon and reached the Sky Island that way. It seems crazy, doesn't it? Well, it's been seen before in One Piece a few times. For example, the 3-winged races descended down from the moon to the One Piece world by using balloons. Moreover, Tsukimi's automatas reached the moon by using balloons as well. And the island where Urouge was is literally called Balloon Terminal. In fact, we can see several balloons under the island. Like, this shit is possible, guys. So I'm gonna assume that both Urouge and Kaido reached Balloon Terminal by using balloons. The second possibility I thought of is a bit crazy, but hey, theories are meant to be for fun, right? So take it lightly and just hear me out. It links to my theory that Kaido is an artificial typhon. You may remember from my old videos that I thought that Kaido ate the Dragon Devil Fruit and then later ate several Smileys, maybe 100, which made him a Dragon Typhon Man. Now that I no longer believe that Kaido ate the Dragon Devil Fruit, what if he ate the Oni Devil Fruit and also ate 100 Smileys, making him an Oni Typhon Man? Or what if he was born as an Oni and then ate several Smileys? It does seem crazy. Tekken has something like that in the form of True Ogre. Like, what if one of the Smileys that Kaido theoretically ate was a Dragon Smiley? It would explain how he reached the Sky Island, as in he flew there. It would also explain why his epithet is Hyakuju, which means either 100 beasts or all kinds of beasts. Regardless of which meaning it has, this theory would explain why he's known as several types of beasts. He is an artificial typhon. It could also explain why he has a tattoo on his left arm, which is what the smiley users of his crew have. Alternatively, if you look at Japanese folklore, the original Onis had the ability to shapeshift into different forms. So could the reason that he's known as all kinds of beasts be because of his Oni ability instead, which grants him the ability to shapeshift? But again, keep in mind that this is just speculation and just for fun. If you're still here, you probably like hearing me talk, but I have one last thing that I want to talk about. The big theory that I said I was skeptical about before is the theory that Momonosuke actually came from the big egg that was at the back of Roger's ship, which we saw in episode 0. Trust me, I was skeptical of this theory too. I mean, Odin was his father. But the theory says that it could explain why Momo said that he remembered meeting Roger, even though he wasn't born yet. I won't get too much into the theory right now. I might talk more about this in a future video, but I'll link the thread in the description. But anyway, now that we know that Momonosuke is based on Momotaro, and we know that Momotaro hatched from a giant peach, if we parallel this to One Piece, this could be huge evidence that Momonosuke actually came from the egg on Roger's ship, but I think I might be the first person to notice this parallel though. That aside, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you could give it a like and a share. As always guys, have an awesome day.